So on my Atheism versus Logic Facebook page yesterday, I posted about protein chaperones and how they prove that we have a creator, an intelligent designer. And somebody asked a great question. You know, what do I think about scientists who study this and know this better than me? What do I think about them disagreeing with my conclusion that it clearly points to an intelligent designer? And what is going on in my mind is that there are scientists who agree. There are scientists who agree that the evidence clearly points to a creator, that we have these molecular machines and genetic code, and they all depend on each other, and that these would not have come into existence without an intelligent designer. So there are experts that agree with me. The other thing is that there's peer pressure. And there's funding. And so a lot of times people, according to, so like James Tour and Rob Stadler, and I love Michael Behe and Douglas Axe, these are gentlemen who are scientists, and they agree with me. And James Tour said, you get less funding when you talk about a creator, that the evidence points to a creator. So there's pressure, right? We know that sugar companies paid scientists to promote a low-fat diet, which we know is not optimal, that there are healthy fats. And so we know that scientists can give in to money. We know that scientists or people, they can give in to peer pressure. And then, so that's two things so far, that there are experts that agree with me, and a lot of times the experts in the minority are right, because everyone just wants to keep their head down and just say what they're supposed to say, and not get out of line, not lose funding, not be looked down upon by other people. There's that. And then, they have a materialistic bias. A lot of people, it's their worldview, it's their philosophy, that they won't even consider that the evidence is pointing to an intelligent designer. Is that science, when you're not even thinking about all the options? And then you've got the idea that people don't want to go back on what they've worked on, right? So if people are working in the scientific field with the assumption that random mutation in time can produce everything that we see, plus natural selection, and then they find out it's wrong, well, man, that's, for some of them, they don't want to even consider that, because they've done so much work, or they've written scientific papers with those assumptions, and they'd have to go back and say they're wrong. Brett Weinstein, or Weinstein, I don't know how you're supposed to say it, but he found out about lab mice, that they were different than wild mice because they have adapted from being lab mice. And he tried to tell the scientific community, and according to him, they didn't want to hear it, because so much of their work was based on the premise, the hypothesis, that lab mice are same as wild mice, but they have changed because they've been put in a different environment for so long. And so that's a lot of reasons. And then the next thing, man, you can just ask people. We're so connected now that you can talk to scientists who have a materialistic worldview. They don't believe in an intelligent designer, and you can ask them, how do you know? Let's take protein chaperones. How do you know that these amazing machines and containers came into existence so that a newly formed polypeptide chain could go in there, fold properly, not experience protein aggregation? How do you know that came into existence without a creator? Well, they don't. And you can ask them about biological translation, which is literally code and the machinery to turn that code into more machinery. How do you know that came into existence without a creator? And they can't tell you. So you find out that it's faith-based. So that's how I am confident that people, scientists who disagree with me, why I'm not just buckling and saying, well, they're the scientists. Well, there's scientists who disagree with them. And when I ask them about the evidence, they don't have evidence to support their hypothesis. They don't have sufficient evidence. They might say, they've got all these theories. They've got all these wishful thinking ideas of how chemicals can become life, can become the code, can become the machinery, can become this amazing complex of DNA replication, transcription, translation, protein chaperones, ATP synthase, topoisomerase, to untangle the DNA and binary fission. I mean, it's insane. It's insane that any logical person believes any of that came into existence without an intelligent being, but they do. And when you ask them about the evidence to support their hypothesis that materialism could produce that chemistry, physics, and time would eventually make those things come into existence, they don't have the evidence. So that's why I don't buckle, and why I stay strong in saying that we know these only come from intelligence, because there's no evidence saying otherwise. These are things that are specified. They have specific roles to play. They need each other. And I mean, just any logical person would come to the conclusion that DNA replication, transcription, translation, topoisomerase, protein chaperones, ATP synthase, and binary fission, that those would not come into existence without a creator. So may you be willing to buck scientific consensus for logic and actual science, evidence, because the scientific method is about evidence supporting a hypothesis, not just a hypothesis that's unproven. This book is great for new believers. It will help them quickly find out the basics of Christianity. If I were a youth pastor again, I would just continually go through these 100 questions with the youth group.